All right. Hello, AP Lit. It's Monday, 420, and this is our third class on distance learning. All right. Um, yeah, how you doing? We're all going a little crazy here, but it could be worse. It could be worse, and I hope it's not worse for you. First thing I want to say is that the College Board, in its infinite wisdom, the people who run the AP committee, AP Central, the tests that you'll be administered before you know it, those people have been trying to reach out and contact you guys directly. They're assuming that some AP teachers aren't able to do anything, and they're providing a unbelievable host of resources for you guys, independent of the teacher. So you guys should really avail yourselves of those resources. As much practice as you're willing to do, or as many lessons as you're willing to sit through. They have live lessons by some of the luminaries of the AP committee, as I mentioned, I think, last Thursday. So immerse yourself in that to the extent that you can. Get yourself ready for this AP test. You only have to write one essay. You can roast this thing, and maybe you can get a 5 or something, and be sitting pretty. Be sitting pretty. All right. But they sent me a communication that indicated who had contacted them and who hadn't. So just briefly, those of you who have responded, the AP committee, College Board's happy with you. Annika, Nicole, Britt, Allison, and Danielle. You guys have made contact and at least looked through some of their stuff. My understanding is the rest of you guys that I'm about to name are signed up, but you haven't communicated with them yet. And that's a bit of a problem, I guess. They want to hear from you and then let you know how you can avail yourselves of all these resources, right? So that's Anthony, Esther, Jeff, Jessica, Kim, Maria, Mia, Nadia, Ray, and Alex. You guys are signed up to take the exam, as I understand it, but have not contacted those guys yet. So check through your emails. They sent you something last week, maybe last Monday. And if you don't have anything, maybe try and be proactive and get in touch with them. All right, enough of that. The book sum sheets were due yesterday or today, or I don't even remember when I made them due, but I've gotten them from like 5 of you. Okay, so I assume the rest of you know that that project is afoot and are working on it, and in good time will get that to me. I told you the due dates are flexible. I don't know if you guys know, but they extended grading period 5 to early May, so you have more time to get that work in. I'm going to keep what's on Synergy as what we have for grading period 5. So the last thing on that was the 19th century husband's letter to the wife and the slam door essay by Atner. And the book summary sheet and everything else that follows is going to go on grading period 6 as promised. And I'll put Synergy up soon when I get a few more book summary sheets, and have that flashing on Synergy so you guys can begin to see what assignments you might be missing. There's still no official grading policy from the district, so we don't know if it's pass, no pass, or everybody gets A's, which some people are talking about, or what. But you guys shouldn't get attached to any outcome at this point. I'll let you know as soon as I hear from them. Yeah, so we're wrapping up Dollhouse once and for all this week. And if you looked at the agenda, what you'll see is there's a few summative things, and I want you to write an essay on Dollhouse. All right? It's the open question style of essay. We did one of these at the very beginning of the year, the morally ambiguous character prompt that you guys discussed your summer reading book in relation to. So I'm giving you a prompt. It's in the attachments, and you'll see the list below the prompt, and a doll's house is how it's translated, but it's listed there specifically. There's so many other great books on that list, but of course, you guys know I want you to write on a dollhouse. You do it in a Google Doc. You'll take 40 or 50 minutes, read that prompt, hopefully cold, and then write. I don't care if you have your book summary sheet in front of you or any materials, but take 40 or 50 minutes, write me an essay, and let's just make that due by next week. All right, I'm not trying to load the work on. I want this book sum sheet done, and I want the essay written and submitted to me by next week, okay? Then we'll start looking at, the AP committee can give you all the practice you want, but I'm going to assign you modest amounts of practice stuff too. For question number 1, the pro style analysis prompt, which we've talked about before, and you guys have done 3 practice ones of those. But as you know, that's the one essay you're gonna have to write on this AP English Lit exam. It's the prose analysis style prompt. So we'll start practicing that, and I may assign you guys a short story a week to read just so we can practice the tenets of short fiction, remind ourselves again of all that stuff, so it'll be right there for you when you write your practice essays, and of course the real essay. On Wednesday, May 13th, I believe, is when you guys are being administered that on your mobile devices, right? But again, contact the College Board so that you can be privy to all of that good information, and put yourself in the best position possible to perform on this test. So maybe you can get yourself some college units. Those of you who are not taking the test, well, good for you. I hope you learn something and emerge from this a better student of literature. All right. Good. So thematic statements are going to be a problem for people on the book sum sheets. Let me give you one that actually introduces the Dollhouse essay prompt that I'm going to give you, which is, again, is an attachment at the bottom of this, right? A traumatic event can sometimes force people on a journey of self-discovery. I like that. You'll see that that mirrors the prompt, but I like that thematic statement because it's rich. It tries to encapsulate as much of the play as possible. It's fairly complex and deep. And it talks about how, we're in constant self-denial and we don't want to change. And that sometimes we have to be forced out of our comfort zone by trauma or horrible things, right? So Nora, that certainly applies to, but look for other characters that you could write to this prompt. The prompt does not specify that you have to discuss the protagonist or so-called main character, okay? I mentioned last class that, maybe this play is a little bit dated to some extent, especially for people who live in the Bay Area. But what's astonishing is really how it's not dated. The things about this play which persist, the gender roles which remain. And if you look at the rest of the world, San Francisco Bay Area is a bubble where we're experimenting with new ideas about gender relations and egalitarian relationships because we're so hip and everything. But, this is not going on in most of the rest of the world. So what changed in the United States around gender? When did it change? Really in the late 60s, but really the 70s is when the feminist movement, the women's liberation movement, it's often called, began, right? So how do you get a sense of how gender roles were still so traditional in the United States? Let's look at this document. It's called Gender in the 1950s is what I called it. It's an attachment at the bottom of this email as well, in addition to the essay prompt. But you guys, the 1950s, it could have been the 1870s in Norway. I mean, the gender expectations were so stiflingly traditional. And if you watch 1950s television programs, which I don't recommend, you'll see yourself, right? Leave It to Beaver, Green Acres, all this stuff. The nuclear family as a cultified, perfect state of being where everybody's role is so determined and everybody's following the script. Let's take a look at this. I'm going to get screen share in a minute, but again, this is attached. You got to check this out. Actual text from a home economics guide used in Ontario, Canada during the 1950s. The segment is titled "The Fascinating Womanhood Way to Welcome a Man When He Comes Home from Work." I invite you to consider the similarities between this document and the list of conditions that Marcus laid on poor Ulrike, right, if she was going to come home. This incredibly stifling schedule, rife with gender expectations and the infantilization and really subordination, ultimately, of women. So let's see if I can make this happen here. We're going to get ambitious with the screen share option. Where is it? Share screen. And yeah, what are we looking at? Here we go. Bam. Share. Okay. So they had home economics classes. Again, this is Canada, but this is pretty accurate reflection of what's going on in all of North America. That is to say, the United States of America. Actual text from a home economics side. So girls would take home economics in school. And this is the stuff that they would learn about in school to be a good housewife, right? So remember, ladies, this is what your expectations are here, okay? Let me just see if I can, yeah. First of all, get your work done. I'm gonna go over this real. Get your work done. Plan your tasks with an eye of the clock. Finish or interrupt them an hour before he's expected. Your anguished cry, "Are you home already?" is not exactly a warm welcome. Have dinner ready. Plan ahead. even the night before, to have a delicious meal on time. This is a way of letting him know that you have been thinking about him and are concerned about his needs. Most men are hungry when they come home. I can attest to that. And the prospects of a good meal are part of the warm welcome needed. Prepare yourself. Take 15 minutes to rest so you'll be refreshed when he arrives. This will also make you happy to see him instead of too tired to care. Turn off the worry and be glad to be alive and grateful for the man who is going to walk in. While you are resting, you can be thinking about your fantastic womanhood assignment, all you can do to make him happy and give his spirits a lift. When you arise, take care of your appearance. Touch up your makeup, put a ribbon in your hair, and be fresh looking. For Christ's sakes, be fresh looking. He has just been with a lot of work-weary people. Be a little gay and a little more interesting. His boring day may need a lift. Clear away the clutter. I'm here now. Make one last trip through the main part of the house just before your husband arrives, gathering up school books, toys, paper, etc. in a bucket of weight or wastebasket and put them in the back bedroom for sorting later. Then run a dust cloth over the tables. Your husband will feel he has reached a haven of rest and order, and it will give you a lift too. Having the house in order is another way of letting him know that you care and have planned for this homecoming. Prepare the children. Take just a few minutes to wash the children's hands and faces, if they're small, comb their hair, and if necessary, change their clothes. They are little treasures, and he would like to see them look the part. All right? Minimize all noise. Especially give heed to this if your husband has to join rush hour traffic. At the time of his arrival, eliminate noise of washer, dryer, dishwasher, or vacuum. Try to encourage the children to be quiet at the time of their father's arrival. Let them be a little noisy beforehand to get it out of their system. Be happy to see him. Greet him with a warm smile and act glad to see him. Tell him that it's good to have him home. This may make his day worthwhile. If there's any romance left in you, he needs it now. Remember, it is your sexual responsibility to attend to your husband's needs whenever he wants it. Some don'ts. Don't greet him with problems and complaints. Solve the problems you can before he gets home and save those you must discuss with him until later in the evening. Also, don't complain if he's late. Count this a minor problem when compared with what he might have gone through during the day. Don't allow the children to rush at him with problems or requests. Allow them to briefly greet their father, but save demands for later. It's a script, ladies and gentlemen, a script. Make him comfortable, right? Bring him a martini and a stuffed pipe full of tobacco, just like in the 1950s. If he likes music, do that. Listen to him. He doesn't have to listen to you, but you should listen to him. You may have a dozen things to tell him. I'm right here. But the moment of his arrival is not the time. Let him talk first. Then he'll be more responsive listener later. If he is responsive listener at all. Think of Torvald, right? Nora has to get a Dr. Rank on the side to have somebody who actually listens to her. Make the evening his. We're here now. Never complain if he does not take you out to dinner or to other places of entertainment. Instead, try to understand his world of strain and pressure, his need to be home and to relax. If he's cross or irritable, never fight back. Again, try to understand his world. The goal, make him a perfect 1950s nuclear home, right? So again, you guys, not to beat the point to death, but this is the sort of gender role that is fairly well defined tacitly, if not explicitly like this. I mean, again, you're sitting there learning this in school, right? As a young woman. Okay, so let's get back to, it's me. All right. Cool. I hope you guys got a chance to read that Is a Dollhouse a Feminist Text that I sent as an attachment, right? This is a marvelous little article. Ibsen, the writer of The Dollhouse, gets invited to a huge women's suffrage conference. He's the star, he's the guest of honor because he wrote A Dollhouse and it's making people think about gender roles. He gets up there and says, I thank you for the toast, but must disclaim the honor of having consciously worked for the women's rights movement. True enough, it's desirable to solve the woman problem along with all the others, but that has not been the whole purpose. My task has been the description of humanity. So in other words, it's not about women's liberation, it's about the liberation of human beings. So it's therefore not arguably a feminist text, right? I just think this is important for literature. People want to claim plays for certain sets of ideas. This is a feminist play, it belongs to us. That version of the play I showed you in class on the old cathode ray tube television, that was from 1973, when the first wave of feminism was really getting going in this country. And so again, people are looking back to art and they're resuscitating these plays and invigorating them with this new meaning. as, Ibsen was the champion of womanhood and women's liberation, when he would be the first to tell you he wasn't. I just happened to write a play about a woman who is possibly in a more egregious, slightly more egregious state of slavery to her gender role. And I made her the star because she represents everybody. She's a metaphor, right, for human freedom, or for the attempt to construct an authentic self, whatever that means. We talked about all the ambiguity, or I did last class, all the ambiguity involved in that. But hey, you've been given this golden opportunity to be something other than the sum product of a bunch of social conditioning. I'm talking to you as a person, a San Franciscan in 2020, right? San Francisco, ground zero of the revolution of self, or the attempt to discover one's true self. Even if that's a ridiculous and hopeless task, there's a nobility to it. It's both pathetic and noble, as so much in human life is. All right. So again, between that document that I just showed you, the gender in the 1950s, the what to do when your husband gets home, what happened between then and now? What happened is women's liberation and first wave feminism. So what I got next on the agenda is I included a link. It's just called Women's Liberation in the 1970s. It's mostly a slideshow with a great soundtrack, including I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar. But it really effectively captures that moment of the early 70s. I was a kid, like I was a child. I was born in 1969. But it brings back that world and this rather magical moment when women started to understand that maybe they had a sacred obligation to themselves over their societally mandated roles as wives and mothers. Right? So please check out that link. If the link doesn't work, it should get you there. Get to YouTube and just type in Women's Liberation 1970s. And that's the first thing that'll pop up, that video. It's about 6.5 minutes long. And watch it, please. There's no way I can hold you fully accountable. But again, just to get a sense of this huge chasm between now and pre-feminism, right? And it's important stuff. So I'll leave second and third wave feminism to your college professors. What are those? Go see for yourselves. It's fascinating stuff. Everybody should know it, especially as San Franciscans. All right. Last thing I got on the agenda is simply the essay prompt. The essay prompt. And you guys are just doing your best. This is your last writing on Dollhouse. This will be the last assignment that I give you, and it's the last time really that I'm going to talk about it directly at all. So the two attachments down at the bottom should be the Gender in the 1950s document that I just reviewed with you. Peruse it at your leisure. And then this prompt for the essay I want you to write. So again, take 40 or 50 minutes, write me that essay on a dollhouse, none of the other works that are listed on there, please. This is about a dollhouse. And submit that to me by next week. All right. I will check in with you guys and give you a class on Thursday, as is prescribed in our quote schedule. I hope it's clear that you guys, I expect you to check in at about 10 o'clock to see if I posted a lesson, which I always will, on Mondays and Thursdays. I'm trying to conform to Balboa schedule as much as possible, even though we're not having classes via Zoom meeting. We may, but not until I get a grading policy and a little more information about what my expectations are really supposed to be. So take care of yourselves and your family first, obviously, but hopefully you're finding this distance learning somewhat rewarding, and that there's some simulation, at least, of the educational process that's still moving forward, and that you're making gains. For those people I mentioned at the start of the video here, try and establish contact virtually with the College Board people, right? And then again, that'll just give you so many resources if you want them, if you can handle them, if your brain can deal with that. Some of us might be wanting to escape into work a little bit and escape from our families and these claustrophobic shelter in order sorts of situations that we're finding ourselves in. So I hope you and the fam are getting along okay and all that stuff. If not, escape into literature, or escape into calculus, or escape into the other fascinating array of disciplines that you guys are no doubt taking. All right. Take care of yourselves. I'm asking that you guys get the book summary sheet and this in-class essay to me, this open question essay to me, by next week. All right, so let's say by Monday of next week. And Thursday, I will nonetheless post a video link with some thoughts or comments or good thematic statements from people's book summary sheets. But yeah, take care of your business, you guys. As I said, the book summary sheet goes on greeting period 6, and I'll start flashing GP number 6 on Synergy soon when I start getting more data, and you guys can kind of see where you stand. Got questions? Don't hesitate to call me or email me, please. And you guys take care of yourselves now. Here,